in the butt to figure out, but we're figuring it out as we go along here. But as we continue the conversation here, hold on, are we live on YouTube?
Yeah, well, you figured that out, Luke. I have some questions. So, Clint, can you tell me again about this? 85% of the people in Palestine haven't voted.
Well, because the last election.
There we go. Now we're live. Okay, we weren't live on YouTube. I apologize for that, but we were live on Rumble. Now we should be live on, of course, the YouTube page. We made a little bit of a mistake here. Again, we're still figuring this all out. So if you're joining us for this conversation, if you want to be a part of the conversation, mysuperchat.com is, of course, where you could go and be a part of this conversation by giving us a super chat. We, of course, will be addressing all of that. And I have to reiterate what I just reiterated before for all the audience members, and that also we are doing a special thing where you guys get to call in now to lukeunfiltered.com. Once I find that website, hold on here. We're starting off here a little frazzled and dazzled, but it's okay. We're gonna figure this out as we go along here. If you want to be the part of the conversation as well, you guys could sign up now to lukeunfiltered.com. We have a post there where you sign up to a Telegram group. Once you're in that Telegram group, you could actually text, call, or do a video call with us, with Ian, with Clint, with Stephanie, as in this video we are going to be live for 2 hours talking about all the latest, craziest developments all around the world. So we were live on Rumble. We weren't live on YouTube. We're live on YouTube right now. We got a lot to talk about. Let's just get into the conversation, as I think it's absolutely imperative to talk about what is happening right now in Congress. As in Congress right now, luckily, in my opinion, we have a lot of upheaval. We have a lot of turmoil as Jim Jordan, even though there's a lot of favorability with him within the Freedom Caucus and the independent movement, he still was not able to become Speaker of the House, as he just lost more votes in the U.S. House of Representatives, as now 25 GOP lawmakers have turned against Jim Jordan, as the Congress still does not have a Speaker of the House, as Matt Gaetz just went on Twitter and said that, quote, all 8 Republicans who voted to remove McCarthy from speakership will now accept, quote, censure, suspension, or removal from the conference in order to elect Jim Jordan as Speaker. Yes, you're hearing that correctly. 8 Republicans, including Matt Gaetz, are saying that they will give up their position in power in order to allow Jim Jordan to be the next Speaker of the House. There's a lot of different motions flying around here, a lot of different chaos, but as an online commentator said previously before, I think it's working in everyone's favor that specifically Congress is not working. And to me, I believe in that sentiment. What do you guys think what's happening right now with Matt Gaetz essentially coming on the world stage saying, hey, I'll give up my position of power if we could get Jim Jordan in there as Speaker of the House?
What did he say? Like, what kind of power would he be giving up?
He said he's willing to be suspended. He's being to be removed. He's willing to face censure. So he just officially posted this letter, as of course there's a bigger battle here deciding who's going to be the next Speaker of the House.
What does that mean, like censure, removed? Not like removed from Congress. He's not saying he's going to step down from Congress. What is it? Like, is he giving up his...
I think that is what he's implying.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what he's implying.
To leave Congress?
Yeah.
If Jim Jordan can get that, that makes no sense to me. They're better off as... Well, I don't know, but it seems like I'd rather have the 2 of them in Congress as not Speaker than one of them is the Speaker and one of them gone. I like them both.
Well, I think it's a it's a gambit. He's trying to basically Russian roulette Jim Jordan into the speakership. And I had a few minute opportunity to talk with Matt Gaetz in person at the Timcast IRL Miami event live, and I asked him, I was like, did you know that this was going to actually work? Did you know that Kevin McCarthy could actually be removed based off of your motion? And he said flatly no. So I think Matt Gaetz is the real deal. I think that he saw kind of the same old that was happening under Kevin McCarthy, and he was just willing to throw caution to the wind and try and get someone that he believed in there.
Got a lot of respect for that guy, man. I told him backstage that we all got to work out. It's like, yo, bro, whatever Congress, whatever politics, if we all get physically healthy and strong, people are going to want to serve us. Like, that's what I've noticed. The bigger and stronger I get, the more that people are willing to offer their services.
Thank you for finally listening, and that's something that, of course, we're going to be talking about in a little bit, as well as Ian's most controversial topics, psychedelics. We're going to get into all of that on the Rumble section of this particular broadcast. But when it comes to this topic specifically, I think there's a big pressure to make sure that there's a new speaker, because the U.S. government wants to jam through hundreds of billions of dollars for the larger war war effort, as right now the U.S. Senate just voted unanimously to support Israel, to support on I think it's $112 billion bill that will give some border protection, but also a lot of money to Ukraine, a lot of money to Israel to fund their war efforts, as we, I think, are on the brink of a very crazy geopolitical situation where our foreign policy is creating a lot of madness on the world stage. I think that madness has been kind of stopped because Congress can't get their ish together. And I think that's awesome. And I think that's great. And I think the longer there's a bigger fight here, the better. So we're going to see what's going to be happening from this battle. But who do you guys think is going to be the next Speaker of the House? I really do hope no one is going to be the Speaker of the House. I really hope there's going to be a shutdown, disarray, and it's just going to not prevail when it comes to financing the larger military-industrial complex and, of course, doing their ritualistic blood sacrifice, which is also known as passing bills. So for me personally, I just really, really hope that there's going to be more infighting within the government, because the more the government is fighting each other, the less they're fighting you.
I met Jim Jordan. We went down to Congress and did a show at Lauren Boebert's office. I think that was, we went down there twice. And I think that was the day that Jim came in. We like cycled in a few. Anna Paulina Luno came in, and Jim was like super cool. Like he's like a dude from my hometown that was like very straightforward. I don't even know what his politics are. I didn't really get into like, what do you think about abortion? What do you think about the military? Like he was just like straightforward.
He's an old wrestling coach, I think.
Yeah, he's an athlete. He's athletic. He's physically healthy. You can tell his brain's healthy.
This is not really like appropriate, but is Anna Paulina Luna super hot in person?
She's a beautiful woman, absolutely beautiful.
Okay. Control yourselves. Your dating pool, your dating market is the lady that we played in the beginning of this video. Okay, the other lady totally not available. But back to the conversation here. When it comes to the madness,
Congresswoman Luna is a brilliant human being. Much respect for Congresswoman Luna. She's actually really, really awesome, and she's really into the environment and protecting the environment, which we barely got into on the show. But just because someone's Republican doesn't mean that they're like old school Republican. You know, the old school of like, let's just drill for oil and pollute and we don't care, go to war. You know, the new Republican Party is just like a lot of younger people with like primal ideas and like.
You're definitely seeing a shift within the Republican Party, because you have the old school rhinos, neoconservatives, and bloodthirsty monsters of human beings that serve special interests and just want to see the world burn, just like Lindsey Graham, who of course has no children and has no family as well, very, very mysteriously. And then of course you have new individuals coming in like Matt Gaetz, who are representing a different form of government that is okay with disruption, that is okay with bringing new ideas forward, and controversy, doesn't shy away from it as well. So if you look at the two kind of people that are predominantly representing the Republican Party, you do see the old guard, you do see the new guard, but you do see a civil war within it that a lot of people say is really bad for the Republican Party. I think it's really good. I think it's a cleansing. I think we're really seeing what policies are really popular, what policies really represent the American people, since the old school Republicans were the George W. Bush Republicans. They're the Republicans that brought in the Patriot Act. They're the Republicans that brought in the NSA, the surveillance state, the destruction of the Fourth Amendment, torture, rendition, CIA secret black sites. Those old school Republicans, we got to understand here, a lot of people are saying Ben Shapiro is freaking out saying, we need a speaker, we need this immediately. I think he's freaking out mainly because he wants funding for Israel. But you got to understand here, when you have this old guard, you don't have a party that represents you. I think Matt Gaetz is doing his best to represent the people. He doesn't take money from lobbyists and special interest groups. He gets a lot of his money from donors, individual people who, of course, give him money. I think you're seeing a kind of revolution within the Republican Party that some people say is bad, some people say is good. What do you guys think about that matter?
My question is, do you guys think it would be better if they split and then they created a new third new political party, and then maybe even the Democrats split with like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and her group?
Well, the Democrats won't ever split, because if you look at AOC, she's turning her back on her kind of leftist activist roots, and she's saying, hey, we got to do what we can for essentially Israel right now. So she's essentially like Nancy Pelosi, and they're staying strong when it comes to their larger servitude to the multinational corporations. So I don't see that kind of bigger revolution within the Democratic Party, as of course they're more in line, they're more obedient, they're more just saying yes, for the party, for power, whatever communistic, Stalinistic gods we have to appease, we will do that no matter what the cause, no matter what the issue, as there is a lot of turmoil now within the whole kind of political sphere when it comes to this issue between Israel and Palestine, which we're going to be talking about here in just a little bit. But I don't see the Democrats bifurcating as much as the Republicans have already bifurcated.
So maybe the Republican Party, if they were to split, I asked Matt Gaetz that. I was like, well, what do you think about starting a new political party? And he was like, nah, I want to take control of the Republican Party. And I guess it's because that's where all the money is and where all the voters are going right now. And the idea of starting something new is like overwhelming, or maybe
it's also a winner-take-all system. So like we don't have a parliamentary style election where you can actually the minority gets some amount of power, really. So I think that's the main reason that you won't see the split. But also, I think what the American people ought to be paying attention to is that the Democrats march in lockstep. Like right now, they're all voting in lockstep for Hakeem Jeffries for Speaker. He's actually receiving more votes than Jim Jordan. The Republicans do have the advantage in the House, but they can't get him over the top because the Republicans aren't unified. But what that tells me is that there are basically 0 Democrats in office that actually function off of like base principles, and then there's like 25 Republicans that do, and some of them more than others, you know. So I just think we have a very small percentage of the Congress that actually represents the people to any real extent.
Yeah, there's like two I guess methods of thought, or at least 2, but 2 of them are, one of them is like kind of a more isolationist, where it's like, let's get out of this, let's stop funding unnecessary foreign conflict. And then there's the other idea of like, if we don't fund this and protect ourselves around our borders, then it will be end up protecting, we'll lose our power in the world. Like the liberal economic order will fail, and the new economic order, BRICS or something, will take over. So we have to maintain military force and control. And I don't know. Did we lose picture?
You got to put the camera on Stephanie. Stephanie needs to talk now.
Give it to me, Stephanie.
Hi, everyone. Luke is the best at fixing issues that I should be doing, but I'm getting there.
So what do you think, Stephanie?
There we go. We should be back up. We should have their cameras up. Do we have their cameras up? And just I didn't see that. Yes, we do. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
So you guys heard my voice in the
We
fog?
heard everything.
Good.
Everything was fine.
And I don't know which one's better, if it's maintain military authority over Earth, or just step back and let things play out and we'll protect our borders. I don't know.
I'm so glad we get to have this conversation, because I've been watching you on IRL, and I'm just like, oh no, Ian. Here's the reality.
I think a lot of people have that reaction because you roll 1 sometimes, you roll 20s a lot of times too, but you definitely spark up a very interesting conversation, and I think you're the most important figure on that entire show, because the conversations you spark, the thoughts you spark, I think are absolutely awesome. Sorry, go ahead, Clint.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, because of my financial background, when I look at people saying we have to defend the liberal economic world order, blah blah blah, because it's going to the world will fall apart, our economy will fall apart. It's like, it's the exact opposite. We are going to have hyperinflation in this country if we continue to try and police the world. We're $33 trillion in debt. The debt burden on the next generation is going to be so significant that they will just have to put all of our tax receipts just to cover that. Like, that's where we're headed. So we're facing insolvency, basically, and we're also forcing the rest of the world, because of our militaristic intentions over the past 20 years in particular, or very starkly, we're forcing the rest of the world to leave the U.S. dollar reserve currency system world and migrate to the BRICS world and use the yuan or something else. So it's coming to an end either way. It's just like, how much bloodshed are we going to see to try and maintain it?
Do you think we could maintain a liberal economic order but transition to like Bitcoin or some sort of crypto-based economy and kind of let go of the U.S. dollar as our primary currency, just use it as an auxiliary?
I mean, it would be... You're just not going to... yes, but it's not going to happen, because the people that are in power, they have access to the printing press and they're able to manipulate interest rates. Why would you possibly give up that power? You're not going to. So they're going to... Like, the people that rule over us are going to run us into the rocks. It's up to the people themselves to look after themselves and migrate into Bitcoin or other hard assets so that they can actually weather that storm as that process unfolds.
Yeah, I think when we look at the larger financial picture, we're seeing a more chaotic picture than what we're seeing right now in Congress, especially with this latest proposal. You see a lot of mainline establishment figures kind of freaking out, saying, we need a speaker immediately. And I think predominantly has to do with the news that just came in a few hours ago, with the Biden administration asking Congress for an additional $61 billion to Ukraine. and $14 billion to boost Israel's spending for its military, while also offering just a little bit of crumbs for the border security and border protection. So when we look at this huge bill, when we look at the U.S. national debt, I'm going to pull up the national debt to what it is right now, because the way that it's been increasing is just absolutely freaking terrifying.
Yeah, and mind you that the amount of money that he just described as crumbs in this bill for the border is more money than Donald Trump wanted for the wall.
Oh, wow. How much is it? Do you have the number?
I think it was 12 billion, and I think Trump only needed 10.
12 billion. I want to see what he has that parsed down to. What is the 12 billion for? Did he say?
Oh, I don't even know. It's
That's one of Ann Coulter's main, one of her main criticisms of Donald Trump is like, he never built that wall. He could have built that wall. He had a Republican House. He had a Republican Senate. He had a lot of individuals in power at his whim. He was able to get a lot done, and then just didn't get it done.
Are you going to usdebtclock.org?
I'm on it right now,
it's
and
great.
it specifically shows that the United States is $33.6 trillion in debt. That is $100,000 per U.S. citizen, $259,000 per taxpayer. So, that's a pretty penny there.
Keep in mind, we hit 33 trillion about 60 to 90 days ago. So we're up 0.6 trillion in 90 days. That is so unbelievably unsustainable. It took us 250 years of United States history to get to the first trillion, and we're about to do our 34th trillion in 120 days.
It looks like we're racking up about $100,000 of debt every 3 seconds. Is that just purely in interest?
No,
Look at this.
it's both.
That's
it's
crazy.
spending and interest.
Do you have usdebtclock.org pulled up, Luke? Can
Yep.
they see it?
Yep, yep.
You can see in the upper left where it says U.S. national debt. It's just going up.
Yep.
$100,000 every 3 seconds. So you said no, it's not just interest to the Federal Reserve.
No, it's also spending, because I mean, we don't take in enough money. We still function off of a deficit. So if you're deficit spending, that means that this clock is going up.
How much of it is interest? Is it
I know it's over $1 trillion annually.
3.8 U.S. total interest paid? 3.8 trillion. You know, it's over how much interest annually?
It's over $1 trillion annually. You got to keep in mind too, the debt instruments, they roll over. So the Federal Reserve has hiked the federal funds rate from 1/4 point to north of 5%. So our debt carry on our debt load has gone up. What is that? 50x
On old debt?
Yeah. Well, it rolls over. So, but the federal funds rate is like the predominant underlying factor for all debt instruments. Most on the world actually function off of it. So, because of that, the interest rate as those debt instruments roll over our treasuries, they will be adjusted upward in terms of the interest rate, and because of that, it'll basically make our debt carry go exponentially higher.
So we just got a super chat from Based Joe.
That's my homie.
He said, "I'm just here to give you my money." That's exactly what the U.S. Federal Reserve is doing to you, just taking your money, but not giving you anything in response. At least we address you and answer your comments and questions here. But I think it's absolutely ridiculous to what's happening right now in the economy, and I think it's why so many people are cheering on Matt Gaetz, saying, "Hey, how about we just stop spending money? How about we just stop giving the military-industrial complex? How about we just stop financing global conflicts, which we're going to need to finance more global conflicts in order to stop? How about we stop this repetitive cycle of blowback and military interventionism that is creating more jihadism, more radicalization on the world stage? How about we just stop doing that?" Is that a crazy idea? I don't think it is.
My problem is I'm kind of just like common sense. And when I look at when you have to borrow, the only place we can get our money is from the Federal Reserve. So if we owe the Federal Reserve 33 trillion, the only way to pay that back is to get 33 trillion. So we have to borrow it from the Federal Reserve, but they're going to charge us interest on that borrow. So we'll borrow 33 trillion. We owe them 37 trillion back. We'll pay off our 33 trillion in debt. Now we're
the money is actually not from them, because anybody that buys our treasuries is really where we're getting that money. So like China has bought them, Japan has bought them, like many Americans buy them for retirement. So it's like,
are they all fiat too?
I mean, as long as you're talking U.S. dollars, if the debt instrument doesn't matter. We're talking fiat.
But when China comes and buys U.S. bonds, are they buying it in like fiat yawn?
I think
They
you
just
have to
print
buy it
infinite
with US
amounts?
dollars, probably. Yeah, so they're probably monetizing to acquire our debt. So it's a Ponzi scheme. It's like debt instruments on top of debt instruments.
That's why I wonder what's the problem of defaulting on the interest of the Federal Reserve if it's a Ponzi scheme.
Well, then you
Can't we-
couldn't borrow anymore. So you would have to actually, function off of the tax receipts that you take in. You couldn't deficit spend because no one would lend you money. Like if you default, like if you go bankrupt and then you come to me and you go, hey, can I borrow $100,000? I'd be like, kick rocks. Like no. So that's the same thing that happens if you default.
And the Federal Reserve is beholden to the Bank for International Settlements in Switzerland. So essentially, we're begging the Swiss banks for money.
Well, I don't really know the relationship between the Federal Reserve and the BIS. I'd have to research that. I'm not
Just
sure.
a heads up, we have a call in a
Very
request, but we're going to take those, I think, on Rumble, our
be safe.
virtual safe space, because you never know. It could be anything. It could be, if you played around with chat roulette, you know how crazy the internet gets. But I think our members could behave. But again, anyone could also become a member on LukeUnfiltered.com. Members of LukeUnfiltered.com. If you log in right now, you have a way to call in. We will be taking your calls on Rumble after, of course, we leave YouTube. We got another super chat by Sweaty Boy who says, hey, Luke, you should reach out to Ryan Dawson. He really knows a lot about Israel and how it was invented by Zionists in 1897, how they killed JFK and helped Saudi Arabia in 9/11. Love you and Ian and Luke. Well, thank you, Sweaty Boy, for that super chat. Again, I think this place should be a place for conversations from all different sorts of individuals, no matter what their viewpoints are. I think good ideas should always be challenged, and bad ideas should always be questioned as well. So this is the place to do that. We're just starting off here. As you can see, we're trying to do our best to have the best in real life guests so we can actually talk to them, make eye contact with them. There's so much of a different kind of video that comes out from individuals who are able to be in the same room together and interact with each other's kind of energies. So who knows? Yeah, I think that would be a possibility. I think that would be also a very spicy conversation, to say the least. We got another super chat here from Lord Moon, who says, love you guys, keep it up, not like that. Yes, Lord Moon, not like that. We got it. Uniman3 says, Luke, love the live show. One thing, no, the mics are buzzing, and please ditch the mechanical keyboard. It's loud and obnoxious on the stream. I agree with you, Uniman3. We are figuring it all out, and I do have a very big, clunky, fat keyboard that I'm messaging my staff and team about and fixing technical issues in the back here. So we're fixing all of that and working out the audio cues as best as we can. So I'm the audio engineer. I'm also the tech guy here. The more we do this show, I think we're going to be doing this show 3 times a week. The better everything's going to be here. Another super chat by Soft Wolf Ford says, happy Friday. Keep up the great work. Ian, you had something to say?
Couple things, yeah. One is if we get that ring light's really good on you. If we get another ring light here, so this because
Oh yeah, the light's not even on. Your light is not even on.
Oh, that's a light.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a light.
And my
We got to
second
turn
question
that
is,
on.
should I-
Steph, can you turn that on
Should
really
I have
quickly?
my glasses
Sure.
on or off for glare?
I
Can you notice the
think
difference?
you're fine. We're gonna turn your lights on. See,
Check this out.
again here we're
looks cool.
you know
Let's see how that looks.
we're improvising here, to say the least here.
What are you talking about?
Stephanie has some sound cues as well
Oh,
here.
that looks way better. Cool.
Yeah, that looks way better here. So yeah, we have a lot of the stuff here. We're just figuring out. We got Atlas here in the background. We got the tip jar there as well. So we're growing, we're expanding here. But let's talk about the most controversial issue now that has been, of course, ripping people apart all over the internet, and that is the latest turmoil happening right now, specifically in Israel and Palestine, as the Daily Mail is reporting a day of rage as there's, quote, anti-Israeli protests spreading all around the world, with Hamas support calling for individuals to take themselves out. Again, family-friendly show here. Individuals calling for, of course, attacks and redemption and revenge here, as I think it's fair to say that we definitely haven't been seeing the best of human beings from this entire conflict, that this conflict brings up a lot of emotions from a lot of people, stops a lot of critical thinking, and I'm kind of left after just dealing with all of this, just with 2 simple messages. Can we please just care about the truth and innocent human beings? Can we just prioritize that and not try to destroy each other as humanity? And I know it's a lot easier said than done, as this situation is complicated. It goes back hundreds of years, but I don't know. As a content creator who's been reporting on this, it has been exhausting for me personally. It hasn't been easy. A lot of people have gotten a lot of things wrong. There's a lot of disinformation. There's a lot of propaganda. There's a lot of psyops. How are you guys dealing with this kind of plethora of gore and nonsense and bullcrap that's inundated our live streams and something that sadly we're going to be talking about for the next few months, if not years?
I've been not letting myself see the videos when they come out because I don't know what's real and what's fake, first of all. Some of it could be deep fake, some of it comes from previous war, and they just say it happened yesterday. Ryan Long did a hilarious video a couple days ago of like, to show my support for the people over there, I'm going to watch every piece of death of bodies I can find. And he's like losing his mind and crying. He's like, I'm so suicidal. Like he's in a horrible, it's very funny. Like, so I don't want to break my brain with stuff. Even if it was real, like I think there's some value to not exposing your brain to it every moment. Like there's a reason we protect children from that stuff, from seeing it and experiencing it, because you don't want them to grow up thinking it's normal to do that.
That's a very good point. Andrew Tate actually has a very interesting counterpoint to that. He says that he exposes himself to that so that when he is in kind of any kind of chaotic moment, he's going to be ready and prepared instead of shocked by seeing whatever kind of nasty images that there are online. So there's two kind of prevailing thoughts. One, that it kind of destroys you. Two, that it kind of prepares you for the horrors of this world and that you will be ready for whatever personally might be happening to you. I understand that there's, both of those kind of perspectives here. Which one we could ask the audience. Press number 1 if you think Ian's perspective is right. Press number 2 if you think Andrew Tate's perspective on this issue is right.
I think it's different for different people because I tweeted it out and I was like, what should I do? And people are like, Ian, just don't look at it. We will look at it for you. There are some people that need to see that and deal with it. And we need some people's brains pure to rebuild society when this is done. Maybe it's different.
But how do you become pure when that's our reality? I mean, what's happening in Israel, what's happening in Palestine? I think I posted a meme that really represents this, and it's the two sides, one representing Israel, one representing Palestine, and then they're dangling, dead children in front of each other, saying, "I'm right, I'm better here." How about we just call out both sides here and say, hey, you shouldn't be dangling, children here. Children here shouldn't be affected here, and we should be doing everything in our power to try to stop this from ever happening again and not escalating it or justifying more civilian casualties.
I kind of, instead of looking at the imagery, I decided to listen to people. So I started Twitter Spaces like last week, almost in desperation. I know. So I'll listen to the people that have been traumatized and let them express their trauma. And sometimes it comes out as them saying like, stuff that would get you banned off YouTube, like calling for violence. But I'm like, if you just listen to that person call for violence and you really just stay calm, they work it out of their system. So maybe that's a method.
Well, here's my frustration. Luke was saying, do you look at it? Do you not? If I actually had any sources of information that I trusted, I wouldn't have to look at it myself. But because the news has lied to me so aggressively for over 20 years, I have to look at the goriness. I have to look into the source material, and I have to make up my own mind. And it sucks. I wish there was actually reliable sources of information that we could actually trust, but we can't. And now because of deepfakes and things like that, even when I do look for myself, I still have to have serious doubts about what's real and what's not.
And both sides are lying here. Both sides are manipulating the life loss of innocence in order to propagate the more further life loss of innocence. So it's like it's sickening, and it's really making a lot of people step back. But also from a larger kind of psyop psychological point of view, if you're someone like, say, Hamas, or if you're someone like, say, Israel, wouldn't it be advantageous for you to release a lot of disinformation? Wouldn't it be kind of advantageous to make the conversation so toxic that people just kind of give up and quit and don't try to address a lot of the insanity that we're dealing with?
Oh, good point.
So this is my questioning. What's really happening behind the scenes when it comes to psyops, when it comes to the larger kind of information war? Because it's pretty clear that the intelligence agencies have been using and manipulating social media for their own personal benefit. The first casualty of war is the truth, and I think it's far gone now. It's buried. It's dug up. It's not here anymore when it comes to our discourse, and I don't think it's ever going to be coming back. But my point of view, my perspective is always, what's the bigger thing happening here that we're not realizing? Because we realize, hey, both sides are lying here, but we kind of got to take a step back and be like, hey, maybe they're lying for a particular reason and purpose here. a part of a bigger agenda.
And how do we not get manipulated by that lie? What do we do in our psyche? How do we assert ourselves in such a way where we're like, okay, we're looking at what's going on and we're saying, I'm not going to fall for that. I'm not going to be emotionally manipulated. I'm not going to contribute to that consciousness or that way of thinking what can we do? How can we look at it in a different way?
I think one thing, I sent you a video, Luke, that Lauren Southern posted a couple days ago of this deep fake of a car burning. And it's the most realistic deep fake I've ever seen. And it's in Unity, the game engine. And they're moving like a big pink icon display through the car smoke, and it's moving the car smoke. It's like digital. So like that's what's public. So you say, what's going on behind the scenes? I'm looking at stuff like femtosecond volume display fairy lights, where we're like beaming holograms into position where you can actually feel the heat and it feels like you're touching this thing, or like talking plasma, where you're triangulating lasers in space to create these balls of plasma that you can move around. You can like beam thoughts and feelings into people's brains. Maybe they're controlling dreams, but this is all like, a lot of it's speculation, but this is like, at least we got to be aware of the possibilities of what's going on behind the scenes, because they say military tech is 10, 15, 20 years ahead.
And that's the stuff we know about. Like if you're hearing about it today, the technology is probably 10 to 20 years ahead of that at the highest levels. So
I think we should be exposing people to deepfakes as we see them. If you haven't played that video,
I'm playing it right now as you're talking right now. It's showing the mouse kind of moving around, and it's showing the larger kind of CGI that's creating this, and it looks absolutely real, and it looks 100% legit. Yeah.
When there's non-humans, it's hard to tell if it's real or fake. Especially, you can tell with animals a little bit more because they're so fluid. And I was like, "Are you sure this is a deepfake?" I couldn't confirm that it was real or fake. I didn't know how to confirm it, but I reposted it because I saw the piece, that pink thing moving.
What
through
is
the
that
smoke.
pink thing? Can you explain?
It's like they go open up Unity and they go edit video, and it pops up, and that's like your mouse clicker basically. You can turn it into a big pink. You can change the shape of it to like paint on the screen or like move graphics around. So that's basically the mouse pointer.
And if you remember, when we were playing video games when we were growing up, it was like it was always the finer details that processors had the hardest time with, and like smoke is the hardest thing to get right, to make it look real. And now it's so real, it's so realistic that I literally can't tell that it's fake, except for the fact that I'm being told that it's fake. Yeah. It's amazing.
And then, of course, we have the latest events that happened at the Christian hospital inside of Gaza, where, the event happened, and it looks like there was a bomb that went off inside of a parking lot, not at the actual hospital. There's still speculation about how many people actually died here. Some people are saying it was only 20 people. Some people are saying it's 300 people. Originally, when that news first came out, people were like 500 plus, 900 plus people dead here. And it created a lot of protests all around the world. It prompted a lot of people to attack the Israeli embassy, to go after the American embassy all over the world. It created a lot of protests. And then later we found out, hey, all the news articles talking about this specifically, yeah, they weren't really that correct here, and the other side kind of jumped on it and said, look at all the fake news that people are spreading here, even though it was corporate media outlets and alternative independent media outlets that were reporting on this. It was Zero Hedge, it was the BBC, and Al Jazeera saying this happened, major hospital bombed, it was Israel. And then, of course, we later found out that there's a lot of conflicting reports, a lot of conflicting information. People were saying it's a JDAM because they can't have this big of a missile, and then we saw the crater of it, and it definitely wasn't a JDAM explosion here. And this is the thing. I think there's a lot of circumstantial evidence. I think it's pretty clear that this was kind of a misfire. That's what all the evidence is suggesting. But there's people so polarized, they're not willing to look at any other information, and automatically they're like, no, it was Israel. Absolutely 100% Israel. I don't care what your evidence is. I don't care what your point of view is. And I think we got to be super careful here, because all the sides matter here, but we also got to take a look at this kind of information from a non-biased perspective in order to really care about the truth here, in order to really care about the life loss here. And sadly, a lot of that is out the door with people saying, Israel, 100%, it was them. And in reality, they have every reason to believe it, as of course Israel has been bombing medical facilities, humanitarian facilities, the United Nations, journalists, and has a record of doing that. Israel was also warning that they were going to be going after hospitals as well inside of Gaza, so there was every reason to believe it. But when it happens, there still should be some individuals saying, hey, this is the argument here. There's a lot of stronger evidence suggesting that this was actually the truth here, since no one really knows the truth here. But people aren't even open to that kind of larger perspective, and automatically they're dead set saying, no, my side is right here, your side is wrong here, which is terrifying to see because when you have that kind of polarization, there's really no pulling back from that. There's really no going back from that, especially when we have so much evidence provided to us on the internet.
Speaking of no going back, so this was like a bomb that hit a hospital or something, and assumedly 900 casualties, and it caused global protest. My concern right now is that a world leader is going to fake their death, whether it's Joe Biden, or that what's going to happen is going to be like, world leader was killed, and then that country is going to launch missiles, and then the other country that gets hit is going to launch more missiles back, and then a day later they're going to be, oh, it was a misreport, the leader's fine, but at that point the missiles have already flown. It doesn't. So we have to be at least.
You can retract a story, you can't retract a missile.
No.
You know?
And so when I see things like Mario Naufal, who I like on Twitter, but he's posting like these articles, he posts the headline. And then in the body of his post, it'll be like, not sure if it's real or not, but the headline just reads like the New York Times headline, hospital bomb, 800. And you're like, dude, you need to give it. And I know it's like, want to be the first, want to get that ad revenue. I know that's what it's about, Mario, but like, you come on, man. Global.
But look at what
Try
you're
to speak
actually
into
doing.
the mic, Ian.
Thanks.
Look at what that implication is. So that person who you're talking about is doing that, and that's like the energy that they're putting out. I really appreciate when Luke talks about the unity and like you're talking about polarization, how that's like separating different people and causing these riots and fights. It's like what we really need to stand for is unity. We need to help people understand how to do so and how to not go on this whole like I got to pick a side tangent.
It's tough. I think the reason that I've come across as being, more sympathetic to the Palestinians is just because from what I've seen, there's been less coverage of their plight. But it's weird because then it puts me in alignment with a bunch of like communists in America, which I don't align myself with basically on any other topic. But I do have sympathy for the fact that, we were talking about it. This was actually cut from the YouTube stream because we didn't have it going, but over 85% of the Palestinians today didn't vote for Hamas. You can say that there's public support for them. There's lots of reasons for that, I might add, but over 85% of them did not cast a vote for Hamas. So, because there hasn't been an election in 17 years. So I just think that, when people say, you voted for it, you get what you vote for. It's like, well, did you vote for Joe Biden? Or on the flip side of that, did you vote for Donald Trump? I haven't voted for anybody that's won the election in my entire life. Should I be held to account? Should I suffer because the American people voted for all these monstrosities? It seems totally unrealistic to try and remove moral culpability for the treatment of innocent children because of how maybe their grandfather voted in 2006.
Where's the fallacy that 44% of the Palestinians supported or voted for Hamas? I'm not sure.
Because it was 2006. So I'm talking about today.
Oh, so in 2006, 44% of them.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But the population, over half of the population wasn't even alive then. So like, can they be held to account for that vote? It's stupid.
And also, let's not forget how Hamas was started, especially when it came to the kind of intervention of the Israeli government breaking up. I think it was the PLO.
It's a Palestinian Liberation Organization.
There's a lot of history here going back all the way to the Balfour Declaration. A lot of involvement from individuals like the Rothschilds here. But when it comes to this conflict, I never thought we would be in a political scenario where Destiny and Ben Shapiro are on the same side, where AOC and Crenshaw are actually agreeing on issues when it comes to this particular very divisive topic that sadly is tearing people apart, and whether it's on purpose or not on purpose, dividing and conquering a lot of people in this larger political sphere. And when it comes to this moment, I think a lot of people need to look introspectively to what their principles are. What do they really stand behind? And I think we're really seeing a lot of people who are willing to flip-flop on a lot of their core issues and beliefs because it's inconvenient for them. But as an independent content creator, I always try to kind of remind myself, who am I? What do I stand for? What ideas do I want to represent? And firstly, that is pro-freedom, pro-personal responsibility, anti-war, pro-peace, and non-interventionalism, which I think is absolutely key to American prosperity. But when we're looking at these situations, there's a lot of inconvenient issues that do prop up. But I go back to what I truly believe, and I'm like, hey, no, we need less escalations. We need less war. We need less munitions. We need less money for global jihadism. As of course, this entire conflict, when you look at the way it's shaping up, and I want to describe it in a little bit here. But before I do, I just want to quickly talk about Look at the sides that are being drawn here. Look at the lines that are being drawn here, specifically between the East and the West. On one hand, we have Ukraine, Europe, NATO, the United States, and Israel all aligning, coalescing with each other, supporting each other, saying we stand behind each other. On the other side, you have Syria. You have Iran, you have Saudi Arabia, which is kind of teetering, along with Turkey, kind of teetering, with China and Russia here, who are geopolitically opposed against this region. And when you have two of the world's biggest energy producers, three now, Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Russia, three of the largest energy producers on the world stage here that are propped up by the trade of the U.S. petrodollar, you're really creating a chaotic situation that's dangerous for everyone, not just the people of the United States, not just for the people of the world, but for the entire globe here that's in jeopardy as the conflict is brewing here and could potentially be a larger world war that a lot of people are fearing, and I think they have a legitimate reason to fear.
Well, and add into that mix, you also have, I think it was Colombia and Brazil and a handful of others that are kind of aligning themselves with the Palestinians. So this is really, putting a fault line or a fissure in the entire global landscape. And let me just clarify one point, because I said I'm more sympathetic to the Palestinians. Immediately after the terrorist strike by Hamas on the Israelis, I was far more sympathetic to their cause. But as soon as
whose cause?
To the Israelis. But as soon as you turn around and you start to blow up children, you lose my sympathy. Because that's the whole reason I was on your side, is because they went after innocent people, and that's wrong always. And now you respond in kind by going after innocent people, and I'm supposed to just write that off because you've been wronged? Well, I don't write off my own culpability of my own nation after 9/11 in the war on terror, when we went out and we killed 1 million plus innocent people. So why would I give you a blank check? I'm not going to. So I'm trying to be consistent here, but because I'm being consistent, people think I'm taking sides. No, my side, if there is one, is on the side of innocent children that don't deserve to die.
I'm thinking about the firebombing of Dresden during World War II. The Americans went in with B-52s, I think, and just leveled, it was worse than the atom bomb. It was...
Well, the Americans, the British, the Allies,
yeah, they went to this...
came
Dresden was
together,
like a manufacturing city. It wasn't like a military...
It was a civilian city,
mostly
predominantly
civilians,
with no hard military targets.
But they were making steel. They were pumping out industry. So the thought process was, if we wipe out their industry, we weaken the Nazis and the Germans, and then that'll make it so we lose less humans as we invade towards Berlin. Would we have even been able to get to Berlin if we didn't wipe out Dresden and all those innocent people? Are they even innocent if they're passively just allowing the Nazis to rule over them?
I would say yes. Well,
yes to what? That it was worth firebombing,
no,
or that
I would
they were
say
innocent?
that the people are innocent. So here's the thesis. You have an entity that is so powerful that you need to have the entire rest of the world rise up to fight back against the Nazis, right? But on the flip side of that, they're culpable because the people won't rise up to topple their own government, which is so powerful that the rest of the world has to rise. It's just like, it's asking so much of the people. It's the same thing with Hamas. It's like they're armed to the teeth and they're the most trained. And it's like, you expect the people to rise up to take them down?
Well,
it's an unwinnable war.
It kind of makes me feel like if our government supports global terrorism in some way, that it turns out, like, are we passively just the Dresden citizens right now waiting for some...
Well, that's a great question, because I wondered that a lot too. Is there a moral, like a mark upon our souls because we permitted the war on terror, we permitted the death of so many innocents. We didn't ever actually call for prosecutions of the war criminals that were perpetrating all of this upon the globe. I don't know.
Well, you brought up a very interesting point with Dresden, because if you look at what led up to the bombing of Dresden, it was actually an alleged accidental bombing by the Germans in World War II of London. The Germans were going after a specific hardened military target, and the official story is that the Germans accidentally missed, and they actually launched a missile into London. That one particular missile killed a lot of innocent civilians. The Germans said it was an accident, but there was this kind of soft agreement, even during war, that, hey, we're not going to go after the civilians here. We're just going to go after the military targets. And now, allegedly, after this one accident, The UK said, you know what? You bombed London, we're going to bomb Berlin. And they did a full bombing run of a civilian area in Berlin, going after a lot of the factories, a lot of the soft targets. And then that led to Germany saying, you know what? Now we're going to escalate as well. Now we're just going to indiscriminately bomb London after you indiscriminately bombed Berlin. So these kind of soft agreements during wars always happen, but it could always take an accident that always escalate it and involve not just the larger destruction of civilian life, but the larger involvement of a lot of other countries here that are just waiting to get involved here. As of course, there's Hezbollah in the north of Israel, in southern Lebanon, that Israel is bombing right now. There's Syria, there's Iran, there's Houthi forces that allegedly fired from Yemen against U.S. military installations and U.S. military warships just a couple of moments ago. So this is why this is such a dangerous paradigm that we're all involved here, and why I think anti-war voices and anti-intervention voices need to be louder than ever, because it could be an accident and then boom, we could already be in a global conflict, a conflict that we are probably already in.
And also, it could be intentional, and they just say it was an accident, and then they'll do it again. So you got to be like, yo, if it's war, you don't trust the enemy. Like, if they tell you something, who cares? But like,
Well, you don't even know who the enemy is. It could be a false flag from our own government too.
this is Phil Labonte. I was talking to him on an episode of Timcast IRL, and he said the way of the world is war. And I don't want to believe it, but you're saying I'm anti-war. It's kind of like saying I'm anti-flooding, which I am. I don't want floods, but like, yo.
Right.
Well, this is an interesting point, because it's clear that our news is fake. And if our news is fake, imagine how fake our history is. So history does always share the story of war and conflict, but there's even world-renowned anthropologists who are saying, hey, that's not always the full story here. There's other civilizations, there's other perspectives that we're not getting, as of course, when it comes to fighting, it's something that's more visceral, something that's more attention-grabbing than peace, or cooperation, or alliances, or trade organizations coming together and saying, hey, we're going to exchange goods here. We're going to have some capitalism here. We're going to actually solve problems without centralized force and abuse by centralized figures. So I again question history. I think there are a lot of very horrible events that we do need to remember, but also the perspective and understanding that history is written by the winners, but also history is manipulated in a way to set us to have a perception of humanity that I think is a lot more negative than what we really want. Because as a human being, I don't want war. I don't want to fight my neighbor. I don't want to take his stuff. I'm okay with him being next to me. I'm okay with us working together. I make sure I have peaceful relations with all my neighbors. I make sure I go around as soon as I move into a community, I get pies. I bring the pies to all the neighbors just to introduce myself, just to talk to them. And I think that's how the average human being is. And I think this really matters about what you think about humanity. Because if you think less of your fellow man, if you think less of your neighbor, if you think less of everyone around you, you're going to be more inclined to believing that, whether than you're an individual who sees the good in people. And I think that's a choice that we all make every single day.
It's also like, if you have enough resources, it's easy not to want to take. But if you don't have enough water, like if we didn't have any water, but the neighbors did, and we were dying right now, what choice do we have?
You set up a rain collection system,
but like,
and
we
then
need
you
water
do a
now.
rain dance.
Hopefully it rains. What if it doesn't rain? Then like literally, I think a lot of this is resource.
You go over to the
distribution.
neighbor, be like, hey, I got some chickens, I got some eggs. You give me a little bit of water, I'll give you some eggs here. I'll give you some chickens. Or hey, I'll actually be your security. You have a lot of water here. I know personal self-defense. I will help you guard that for a little bit of water just to make it by. I'll peacefully work out a deal with you. And I think that happens a lot more than people punching each other in the face.
Yeah,
and I think that's more of a constant when it comes to the actual human history and the actual interactions that are more anarchistic and follow the non-aggression principle, which I think are more common than a lot of people understand it to be.
In simpler terms, give rather than take. If we're all giving, if we're all sharing, we can all get through it together. If we're all in competitive and we're trying to take and be all that greedy things, like obviously it's gonna just destroy us, as we can see. History, what Luke was saying, history has been manipulated. I do follow up on that, but at the same time, I feel like we can learn a lot from the patterns as well in history. So it's not good or bad. It's just being aware of, what can we learn from looking at history, and also using your discernment.
Well, to the point that Ian was making about, how it's resource allocation, you got to keep in mind too, the Palestinians have over 50% unemployment rate, and their GDP is smaller than the amount of money that Biden intends to send Israel in this next bill. Their GDP, their entire economy is smaller than the bill, the money that the American people are going to send to Israel to go blow up the Palestinians. You're talking about such an incredibly lopsided, fight here. You have people that are really, really poor, some of the poorest in the world, and Israel, which is not very poor, and very technologically advanced and has a great military, and it's just perplexing to me that we're being divided in a way that we have to choose a side here. And I'm like, I've watched the videos of innocent people killed in Israel, and I've watched it happen in Gaza. And what I conclude from that is not that I should be picking a side, but rather I should be doing everything in my power to stop that process. It is atrocious. What's frustrating is that, the American people in particular, but everyone, we didn't have this technology to see warfare in real time in such gruesome detail. What I would like to see is that because we're now capable of seeing it in all its visceral horror, that we actually conclude, oh, maybe we should stop doing this. This is terrible on both sides. But instead, people see one side of the video and then they go, well, now we got to go do that to the other side. And it's like, no, stop the cycle. It's crazy to me.
I think about world peace and the potential, and like how United States, we've basically created unified peace within the country. There's obviously always going to be conflict, like personal, interpersonal, and resource conflict. Poor people might want to steal from a shop and they're carrying a gat when they go in there. But like, it is possible for us with a common language, a common currency, and good roads and networks for resource distribution for us to live in peace. So I imagine that can happen globally too. There are oceans in the way. So we need some sort of stratospheric drone delivery system to get resources to places in the desert or in the jungle or in
I can think of a resource material that would help us with that.
Graphene?
Yeah. Everyone drink.
Yeah, we could send some graphene drones up in hydrogen balloons, and then you can use the hydrogen as fuel when they land. Maybe they can fuel themselves. The balloon itself would be its own fuel.
That'd be cool.
But I think you need both. You need also personal self-defense. You need to show people that you're not willing to be a doormat that's going to be stepped on. And you need to be an individual who also is prepared for whatever might come their way, because there are jackasses in the world. There are really bad people in this world that you need to protect yourself. I think a lot of those people would win Darwin Awards if we didn't have the full frontal kind of government and perception and reality that we're living under right now, that people think protects them, and in reality it protects a lot of the bad people in our society that hurt people. And there's so many examples of this that we could get into, not only with the district attorneys, not only with the multinational corporations buying off the regulators, not only with just all the products out there essentially poisoning you, killing you, and running a larger biological warfare against you and your balls. There's so many different perspectives here. There's so many different aspects here. But when we kind of evaluate everything, you need to be a peaceful warrior. You need to be someone who's willing to offer someone, a positive gesture, willing to offer someone trade and peaceful relations, but also someone willing to stand up for themselves, saying, hey, you crossed the line here. I'm going to defend myself, my interest, my family, my neighborhood, my community here. There's not going to be any of you seeing my kindness as weakness here. So there needs to be a combination of both, especially when it comes to a kind of reaction here on the world stage as well.
That might be why the United States is so successful internally of establishing peace for 250 years. Well, we did have the Civil War.
Well, the United States empire has been at war almost its entire freaking empire.
But the last 100
proxy wars, military wars, overthrows in Chile, in Panama, all over Latin America, in Nicaragua, in Iran, in Libya, in Syria, in Somalia. Yeah, we could keep going on and on. Ian, I would actually disagree with you.
Statement in question. Yeah. I think you're right that why we've had internal peace is because we're armed, and you can't just go take your neighbor's water because you might get killed. It's not worth the risk, so you develop trade as like a less risky.
We have property rights.
Yeah, and you have guns. That's good. If the whole world was armed, maybe we wouldn't, with like small arms, we wouldn't be going at each other because defensive has the advantage. But then my other question is, do you think the United States could maintain peace and prosperity for the last 100 since its inception if we didn't globally conquest and extract resources from Hawaii? We took Hawaii over. We took Alaska at one point. Could we have been peaceful, or would we have eaten each other alive because we didn't have enough gold or wheat or whatever the hell? I mean, obviously wheat,
well,
but
of all the nations on earth, the one that has the least excuse to be imperialistic is the United States. We have such a bounty of natural resources. We have these incredible oceans that keep any sort of enemies away, any sort of serious threats to our homeland. It's crazy to me that with all of these advantages, all of these natural, we're totally self-sustaining if we want to be. I mean, the United States doesn't need anything from the rest of the world if we were to just actually utilize our natural resources in the way that we could. Personally, I'm a fan of global trade and free trade. So, like, I'm not saying that we need to, but to believe that we have to be using our military to acquire additional resources is just wrong. We don't.
China has a very interesting strategy here, as we have another article here by the Daily Mail detailing how their nuclear weapons are surging in production, and they will, quote, double their arsenal to 1,000 warheads by 2030. Yes, an interesting topic to bring up when we talk about the possibility of peace here, when we have a larger Thucydides trap unfolding right now between the East and the West. China representing, some people say, a paper dragon, some people saying a larger threat against the U.S. hegemony on the world stage. How do you guys see it? I think that's an interesting conversation to make here, as, of course, their involvement here has been pretty eye-opening, as they've been making a lot of statements against Israel and for the people of Palestine. They've been more aligning themselves with Saudi Arabia and Iran, that they brokered a peace deal with and actually ended the war in Yemen. And when we look at the global strategy of China, it's kind of a Belt and Road initiative. It's kind of a financial takeover. It's kind of a new form of colonization, especially in Africa, where they go in and they say, hey, we're going to build stuff, but we're going to own it afterwards. You guys want to do that? And a lot of African countries and despotic, corrupted dictators like, yep, sure, come on in. My time in Africa was literally spent seeing so many Chinese people all around, as, of course, the contractors there, the investment there, the amount that they're building there and taking their national resources is absolutely pretty eye-opening, to say the least here. But when it comes to China here, they also have a say here in this global matter. They're kind of using their soft power now, but I think it's clear with the way that they're kind of shaping themselves up to be, they're also trying to say, hey, we're going to have some hard power too, and we won't be afraid to use it.
Yeah, I've now that we've moved beyond small arms weapons, like it's no longer just cannons. Now we have nuclear annihilation technology. It's the attacker's world. Whoever attacks wins. But the problem is, if you attack someone and then you get attacked, you lose because someone attacked you.
No, we all lose, Ian. If there's a nuclear bomb that goes, we all lose, because there's going to be a nuclear bomb that's going to, of course, have mutual assured destruction. There's no winners here. There's the end of the world here.
If being attacked is a loss, then even if you attack someone else, if you get attacked, you still lose. It's not like the win is that no one gets attacked. That's or that only somebody does, but that's not realistic in this nuclear intercontinental ballistic world where we have nuclear submarines all ready to fire. We have global, probably orbitable stuff ready to drop on cities.
But I think modern warfare, the way it's shaping up and changing with the information war, and more importantly, the use of small drones and small munitions, especially what we've seen in Ukraine, especially what we probably will be seeing with the Israeli invasion of Gaza, I think it's going to be game-changing. And I think this is why one reason Israel still hasn't gone into Gaza, mainly because of this new modern warfare that favors insurgency, favors the individuals that are getting invaded. So we've seen that in Ukraine. I think we're going to see that in Palestine. We got a super chat here from Jay Coulter that says, quote, their Palestinians' weak, small economy is, quote, offset by the endless terror fund of Iran and the USA, and they get money from China now. That's what Jay Coulter said in a super chat here. And there are videos from Hamas literally taking water pipes and saying, yeah, we're just going to turn these humanitarian water pipes that are donated to us into missiles. And that really doesn't do them any favors when it comes to the importation of more humanitarian aid, which also comes from your taxpayer dollars.
But doesn't it go exactly counter to the claim that Iran is giving them infinite resources, that these people have to turn water pipes into missiles? I mean, do you not see the disconnect here? That they're like MacGyvering missiles, but you think that they're getting billions of dollars from Iran? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And to the point about China, it's really frustrating to me because after the fall of the USSR in '91, America was in such an unbelievably powerful position to just trade with the rest of the world. We're the only people that have like a really legit military at that point. And instead, we went out and we just blew everyone up for the next 40 or 30 years. It's so ridiculous. And if you're afraid of China, like, I think if I was the leader of China, I'd be laughing my ass off that the Americans are out there just blowing a hole in their deficit as I'm on the rise, I'm using all of my soft power. I'm creating, infrastructure in third world countries. I'm getting contracts with them so that I'm going to be able to utilize those resources.
All the natural resources that they take from them as well, the raw minerals and metals that are very hard to get.
But they're doing it through contracts and business as opposed to force. And it's like America could have been doing that. So I just think that if you're actually afraid of China, well, then stop playing into their hands. Stop bleeding your economy out and bleeding your people out. It's just not sustainable.
And we have financed both sides of the conflict here, whether accidentally or directly or indirectly. If you look at the weapons that were left in Afghanistan, if you look at the weapons that were given to ISIS, that were given to, of course, radical jihadists by the United States, also Israel supported ISIS when they were trying to overthrow Bashar al-Assad in the region, who wasn't that favorable to the larger military doctrine of the United States and its foreign policies. We tried to overthrow him just like we did in Libya, which created another huge vacuum of power, a lot of weapons on the world stage that just ended up also in the hands of radical Islamists. You look at Ukraine, where CBS News was reporting that only 30% of the weaponry was actually getting to Ukrainians. Why are we throwing so many weapons all over the world and then surprised that there's fighting and conflict when we literally supplied it with the weapons, the guns, the bullets that they're now being used against each other in this larger Middle Eastern conflict that soon might expand? And you probably are seeing American rifles that were sent in by the Pentagon going against American rifles that were sent in by the CIA. That's essentially what we're seeing here. That's what happened in Syria. That's what's happening right now in the Middle East. And it's just bewildering that your taxes that you worked so hard for are literally paying for it. It's frustrating. It's pissing me off personally.
It's either like malfeasance, idiocy, short-sightedness that they would send money to a country where it's getting 70% of it's going to leave weapons behind for the enemy to take. That's either just pure stupidity or it's intentional. And if it's intentional, I can't imagine that it's I can't imagine that it's the president and his friends doing it. I would imagine that it's probably a global banking cartel, perhaps, that's more interested in seeing fight versus fight. I mean, you want both sides to get. If you're the banker that's going to fund the weapon creation and then watch them blow each other up and then fund the reconstruction, then you want it to be kind of equal because you want them all to get blown up so that you can then get
you don't
more.
want the war to end.
Yeah, for sure. And if we didn't give our high-tech weapons to the enemy in Afghanistan when we surrendered, then we wouldn't have a real foe. We would have just smeared them apart, and then there would be nothing to rebuild. It would be less to rebuild, I should say. It's very conspiratorial to think that people actually want two equal nuclear powers to go to war, because I don't think Klaus Schwab's saying like, yes, I hope the nukes. I don't think he's thinking that.
It's a dangerous gambit because it could lead to that. But what their larger objective is what Henry Kissinger called for, and that is a limited war. And that's exactly what we're seeing in Israel. That's exactly what we're seeing in Ukraine. Exactly what we saw in Libya. What we saw in Syria. What we're seeing in Somalia. World powers financing, just like in 1984, there were specific reasons of the world's fighting each other, but they were never directly fighting each other. They were fighting only in a small theater of war. Ukraine is that theater. Israel, Palestine is that theater. And the only real winners is the military-industrial complex. The real losers is the people who live in that region that are subjected to some of the worst human atrocities on the face of this earth, because some people are financing, bankrolling both sides here that need to be called out here. Clint, you wanted to say something, and we got a bunch of super chats. I'm going to ask my staff, because for some reason I got logged out of my YouTube account now on my main computer. I need my staff to log into the YouTube account, get all the super chats, and send a screenshot of all the super chats here into the comment section. You could just go into the settings and you could see all of them. I'm going to address as many of them as I can. Then we're going to go off to Rumble and we're going to talk about some more spicy topics that we can't talk about here. A lot of different things that we really wish we could get into, but we can't. And we will be taking callers. You guys will be able to call in as members of LukeUnfiltered.com. Free super chats, free call-ins, get to talk to us and talk to all of our entire audience live as it happens on rumble.com/wearechange. We're going to be going over there in just a little bit. Clint, you had something to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to make the point that, China and Taiwan has been kind of the fourth potential front for a world war. And a lot of people don't understand it. I've been researching it over the past week just to try and wrap my head around it, because all I keep hearing is semiconductors. That's the reason. Well, this kind of goes into my point about how we don't need to use military might to try and conquer and take over resources. Taiwan has actually created a self-defense mechanism just by creating a technology that no one else is capable of really creating on the scale that they can. They're responsible for over 90% of the most advanced computer chips that go into all of our latest technology, including military technology. So as long as they're willing to trade with both sides don't have the inclination to go in and invade them. And the primary reason that they can't is because that if they go in and they bomb them, if they were to bomb Taiwan, well, then all of those laboratories and all of that intellectual capital from all of those employees goes away. So even if you were to conquer it, unless you're able to enslave those people to continue with that process, then you're not going to be able to create those chips in the first place. So there's no advantage in actually taking it through military might. So I think that that's one of the greatest examples I've ever seen in my life of a free market system actually creating peace where otherwise there would be conflict. Now, could it lead to conflict because states are stupid? Sure, it still could. But as of now, like I think the only reason that they haven't been invaded is because of that.
I kind of think like peaceful fascism is better than violent fascism. And like the United States with its corporations and its military has been doing violent fascism, setting up, corporate, whatever, BlackRock or whatever the hell these companies are. But like, more realistically, Halliburton, Dick Cheney's company, got set up in Iraq. But whereas China seems to be doing a peaceful fascist thing where they're actually just trying to trade and put their corporations in countries and buy them out and own them. And I wonder, is there another system better than fascism at this point?
Yeah, because it's called capitalism. It's called free markets. It's called the opposite of state centralized top-down control, because China, a lot of people are saying that they are also a paper dragon-like empire and not as strong as they purport to be, mainly because they stifle and destroy innovation and economic capitalistic solutions that they deny because they have such a huge hand and overburdening power and authority over private enterprise and business.
My fear, though, is free market is kind of a misnomer, because it really, if it was totally free,
we don't have a free market.
No,
we have fascism.
If it was totally free and no governments could interfere, we would have a corporation become more powerful than any government on earth. Kind of like Alphabet looks like it's
already exists.
Yeah,
like Alphabet that already exists because of government.
So it's like you can either shut down Alphabet or you can have your government try and work with Alphabet, but you can't.
But Ian, you know that Alphabet has risen to its lofty heights because of its relationship to the government. So how can you say that there would be a private entity that would actually rise up to these heights
when they already did use the government?
Right.
They already did it. They did it. They did it because of government, right? They wouldn't be able to do it if it wasn't for government aiding and assisting them every step of the way.
Because otherwise competition would have already knocked them down.
But look at like Vanderbilt in the 1860s. He had all the railroads, and he
used the government.
He decided, I'm not going to ship into New York anymore because you guys pissed me off. And then he cut off the trains to New York. They all started he's like, they're not getting their food now.
Let's talk about the discussion because we're reaching 1 hour. Let's continue that discussion on Rumble. But we got a lot of super chats. Steph, I'm going to need your help addressing and reading some of them. We got another one from Based Joe, who says, I'm of the belief that this is all an illusion brought by all world leaders, NATO, World Economic Forum, UN, NGOs, etc., to enslave mankind. If you guys want to respond. If not, read the one by Jay Coulter.
I do want to respond
Steph.
because as we're talking about all this war and hell and firestorms, and I'm thinking like I'd just rather see people get plugged into the machine, man. Maybe these World Economic Forum people are onto something. It's peaceful fascism.
No!
I will tell you, peaceful fascism is
Button
better
pusher,
than
where
violent
are you?
fascism.
Button pusher.
Unless you think that
the button
violently
pusher
resetting
spazzed out.
Earth is like more
I'm
value.
ready to read.
Anyway, we'll go on to that on Rumble.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay, read the next one on the top here on the top of the
Jay
screen.
Coulter says, don't be fooled. The water pipe missiles were a photo op to make you think they're reduced to small arms. Their GDP is offset also by their conviction.
Any response to that?
Well, I mean, if I convictedly want to overthrow a government with a stick, it's going to be a lot harder, just because I've got a lot of conviction. Just because I have 10,000 people with sticks doesn't mean I'm going to like do as well as like 9 guys with the right weaponry.
Do you want to read the next one by 467 Spirit?
467 Sprite says Santa Ana City Council will debate on voting for the right to vote for illegals. Congressman Lou Correa is against Jim Jordan for House 2. So to the cast, Benny, actual real journalist, first donation.
Thank you, 467 Sprite. I thought it was Spirit there. We got another one. And you guys interrupt me if you guys want to, of course, address any of these super chats that we got here. We got Raymond Laurie, who says, strong morals will to handle the hate and terror without developing a permanent traumatic stress disorder or persistent and acute low moral syndrome. Yeah. Raymond. There's that. Angry Yeti TV gave another super chat saying the crux of all of our issues is that the vast majority of our laws are predicted under the guise of government protecting the people from themselves. Yep. Very good point here. We got a whole bunch of them. Holy cow. We got a lot. Hold on.
Give us money.
I want to hear from you. Super chat me because I want to
see
know.
a list here.
I want
Did
to
I
answer
do
your
that?
questions. Oh, sign up. How do people call in?
People will
soon?
be calling in on Rumble because that's our safe space.
But how do they do it?
We
sign
don't want
up?
anyone showing random wiener pics here.
How do they sign up in order to call?
So you go to lukeunfiltered.com, you sign up, and as soon as you sign up, you get an email with your login information. Once you get that login information, let me show people the website of what it
Then you go to
actually looks
Telegram.
like. Steph, click on the website. Click on the browser. You click here. You could sign up for a year. You could sign up for a month for $15, less than 50 cents a day. You sign up here, put in your information, and then you get emailed back a login information. You log in, and then the first post that we have up there on lukeunfiltered.com, along with a lot of other incredible offers of value, is specifically the Telegram channel that you will join. On that Telegram channel, you will say, hey, I just want to leave a text chat. I want to leave a voice chat. I want to do a video call. So if you want to do a video call, just type in video. I am going to personally call you. You will be available for everyone to see on rumble.com/wearechange, where we are live right now, and we'll continue this conversation after this one in our virtual safe space. Now, you read another super chat, Steph?
Sure. So we have Mind of a Madman 69 donating $5 saying, "Statists are cringe. Ian, keep on pumping iron. Work out with Luke and be based." 1.
Yes, Ian.
Yes.
Keep working out.
Leg
I got
day.
I got Ian into the gym,
Dude, that was
this
awesome.
week.
You tweeted. There's a
and-
couple, I think,
Yep.
on Twitter, on your Twitter channel. There's videos of us working out. We got to do legs. We have to do legs.
Leg day doesn't exist. It's
Just
not
get-
real.
we
It's
gotta
a
get free-
psyop.
free
Leg
weights
day
and
is a
some lunges,
psyop
you
within
know?
a psyop. It's not real.
We need nice, strong, thick thighs.
We got another super chat by. What's that? What's that saying? No. What?
No.
No. Yeah.
Hell no.
We got another super chat by Fear Me. It's Bree saying, like the live setting, really wish that the neocon right would at least throw up in their mouths a little when talking about killing civilians instead of celebrating it. That is all. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Fear Me. It's Bree, as of course a lot of the same Republicans that were very anti-interventionist, very anti-war, are very pro-interventionalist, very pro-war now, showing how essentially a lot of them don't have a lot of moral basis and convictions that they actually stand behind. but
America
they're
First
wavering.
was a lie, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
They lied to you.
You want to read the next one? Just say their name and read the
Scott
chat.
Woodford says, "Happy Friday. Keep up the great work." Uninam3 says, "Luke, love the live show. One
I
thing
hear
though."
you read that one.
We did?
Yeah. Lord
Oh.
Moore.
Lord Moore goes, "Love you guys. Keep it up." Not like that. We read that one as well. I think we should move to the next. We've seen a bunch of these.
Based-
Nancy J gives us a star.
Thanks, Nancy.
Thank you. Thank you for the star here. You got another one here. Jay Calter already has a third one here. Did you read that
Jay
one?
Coulter. Should I read the third one?
Read it. Yep.
Palestine's weak/small economy is offset by their endless terror fund of Iran and the USA, and they get money from China now! Exclamation mark.
I think we read Based Joe's. We read 477 Spirits. And we got Angry Yeti. Did we read
Angry
that one?
Yeti TV. The crux of all our issues is that the vast majority of our laws are predicted under the guise of government protecting.
Yeah, we
the
read that one.
people.
We read that one.
you. Thank you.
I want to see if there's
We love you.
any other ones there before we move
Are there any
over.
super chats about the size of my biceps?
You got to give us a show here.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Let's fucking go.
All right. Just the casual stretch there. You know, nothing to see there. Clint, your turn.
Yeah, look at that.
Well, I think it's fair to say we all got to hit the gym here. We all got to work out more, to say the least. There's never enough working out. So I think we're going to be getting into psychedelics, personal health, tactical training. If Clint actually quit his douche fluting, if he's actually hitting the gym, we are going to be answering that question, plus a lot more, all on rumble.com/wearechange. I am sending the link right now on YouTube. If you are on YouTube, go into the chat, click the link that I just posted in the chat room right now. That link will get you over to Rumble, where we are going to be going and talking about some really spicy issues. Again, I'm going to ask Ian his most craziest, most spiciest opinion ever. We're going to be talking about psychedelics. We're going to talk about hypnosis, whether it worked with Clint. We're going to be talking about this larger conflict in an honest and real way. As we move on from Rumble, as we move on from YouTube to Rumble, quickly just tell people where people could find you, Ian.
Best place right now is on Twitter, now formerly known as Twitter X. I do daily, weekly X spaces, and I love it. I have people come in. Up to 11 people can come on audio at the same time, and we have conversations. I make sure that only one person speaks at a time, so everyone gets a chance to listen. We don't talk. We really learn a lot from each other. So follow me on X and join my spaces when we go live.
Clint?
At Liberty Lockpod on Twitter. I'm following a couple more people back. If they subscribe to me over there, it's a good way to support me. Liberty Lockdown is the show. Bunch of great episodes recently. Check that out. And then Tower Gang on Wednesday nights, 9 o'clock. It's crazy, super, super, super inappropriate stuff. And just so you guys know, when we hop over to Rumble, we're going to be doing live, DMT live with Ian Crossland. Do not miss it. We're all gonna blast off in the ethereal realm. It's going to be incredible.
I know Ian will and might already be blasted off, but personally, I'll hold off on that. Steph, really quickly.
Luke, everybody can find me at Steph We Are Change. I made it just for you on Instagram. I have 0 followers. Go follow me.
All right, you're on YouTube. Go over right now. I'm putting the link down again in the comment section. You're in the comment section. A lot of people, for some reason, love to stay on Alphabet, loves to stay on the organization and larger companies that Ian believes wouldn't be as powerful if it wasn't for the governments that were actually propping them up. They're not. They're not. Sorry, I just had to say that. Go over, support independent media, support independent platforms. Rumble is where we could actually have a more honest, real conversation. We are going over there right now. Link again in the comment section. Go over there. I will see you there right after this particular broadcast, and we are off. Love you guys. Stay tuned and subscribe, because again, first we're going to go live